Jay, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Jay, in your recent article, you'd mentioned a visit to Portugal and their depression, and that you'd realized that country was in a depression, and how the multinational banks and other creditors have taken control of some of their major infrastructure projects. You then went on to say that we got to be aware of these global elites and what they're doing as far as bankrupting our people and governments. My question to you is, how do you survive and possibly thrive in this environment of theft and wealth transferring and extreme market manipulation?
Yeah, I think what you have to do is, first of all, you have to recognize that there is manipulation going on and try to understand what it is, and then act accordingly. And of course, the masses of people don't get it. They don't believe it. They're content to take at face value what they're told by the mainstream media. And what people really have to understand is that the manipulation is systemic. It is the fiat currency itself is a manipulative tool that allows those who control fiat money to reallocate wealth from those that produce it. I like to say the miners, the manufacturers, the farmers, the inventors, people that are actually doing things that are of value for other human beings, are not getting their fair share. Instead, it's the government and the Federal Reserve and the banking system that has control and have first dibs of new money creation that really end up becoming more and more wealthy. So just by being in the system and holding dollars, you are being taken advantage of. So what you have to realize is you need to get as much as possible outside of the system. And the one way to reduce the systemic risk is to trade those fiat dollars, which are really worthless. They have nothing of intrinsic value. They are really just a con game, and they need to exchange those dollars for gold and silver, real estate, I would say diamonds, I would say other things that they need, of tangible value, that no matter what the currency does, you still have possession and ownership of those assets. Some other ideas might be, to go to digital forms of wealth like bitcoins. I'm not suggesting that's for everyone, but it might be good for some people. If you're wealthy enough, I would suggest people might do well to do what my friend Doug Casey and Jeff Berwick are doing, and that's, investing in other countries and different places. Diversify your assets to the extent you're able to.
Now, what about the blatant manipulation of the gold price? Can you help us understand what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think there is a blatant manipulation of the gold price. I think it's a good way of putting it. I don't know that everybody, all the traders on Wall Street, I don't necessarily subscribe to everybody that is, trading for J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs or these big bullion banks are necessarily knowingly manipulating the gold market. I don't think so at all. I think they're all acting in what they see as their own best interest. But the best interest of Wall Street is not to have people opt out of currency and go into gold. They wouldn't have any sales left. They wouldn't be able to sell any stocks or bonds or derivative products or anything else if people just went back to owning the physical metal. And so Wall Street has a vested interest. Washington, as much as Wall Street, has a vested interest in keeping people conned into owning paper assets. So I think there is very little doubt in my mind. For example, somebody pointed out that when J.P. Morgan, which is by far the predominant player in the futures markets for gold and silver, that when J.P. Morgan, when they are taking delivery, or when they are delivering gold, when it's a delivery month for them, you'll see the gold price go down very dramatically, probably so that they can go out and secure gold at lower prices. And how do they do that? Well, they can just go into the futures markets, which have 100 times more volume in the paper markets than in the physical markets, and just overwhelm the headline price that everybody sees by driving the price lower, and then go back and cover their shorts the next month. But it's pointed out that when they're taking delivery, the gold price usually goes up. And the point was made, I just saw here, an analyst was suggesting that, in fact, October should be the bottom here in the gold markets because of that dynamic with J.P. Morgan. So, well, we'll see. But there is just a vested interest. When people say conspiracy, they sort of think that there's some people in a smoke-filled room of sinister characters that are around just trying to rig every move in the market. No, I don't think so. I think that there are people that are just simply acting in their own behalf, as they see it in their own best interest, with little concern or knowledge about the system and the bigger impact. So, I think it's mostly through the futures markets that they're manipulating things. I think there's a lot of con artistry. I think there's a lot of propaganda that comes out of the major media, the Financial Times being one, but all the major media. You always have the people that are talking down gold because it's like everything else. They want to talk their book so that they can con people into doing what makes them money.
Jay, in your monthly newsletter, you said that you were focused on your top 12 exploration stocks. I saw that you profiled Brazil Resources, a top holding of Rick Rule, Doug Casey, and America Tusa. In fact, just a few weeks ago at the Casey Summit, Marin said he was buying it actually with his personal account as well, to me. What is it that you see in this company that stands out amongst other gold stocks? Because it is interesting that, you do have a high-quality CEO in Amir, but he is attracting some rather very significantly strong players in the gold resource sector.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a testimony to Amir Adnani, who has he's a very smart guy. He's very articulate, but I think one of the things that I find about Amir, and I've known him for a number of years now, is that he not only does he attract talent, but he also knows how to work with people very well. He's a delegator. He knows his limits, and many small companies that I see have CEOs that think they can do it all. Well, Amir knows that he can't do it all. He knows where his strengths are, but I think it's his ability to communicate, to get along with people, and frankly, his track record, it deservedly gives him, makes people confident in his ability to manage things. He's done very well with Uranium Energy, which has been the first new producer of uranium in recent years in the United States, and I just think he attracts talent because he knows how to work with people, and he knows how to use talent and to treat people decently. So I think he commands the respect of the people that work with him. His alliance with Brazil Invest is a good example of his ability to attract talent and money. That's a concerned investment firm in Brazil, and it also allows them then to have a cultural connection with Brazil, which is always very, very important. And his ability to raise money has allowed him, even in a very weak market, then to pick up some very decent assets, like he picked up the Cochahira gold project from Luna Gold. And more recently, Brazilian Gold, he picked up a company there with great assets. So, the Cochahira project has got about 1.3 million ounces or so of gold, and with lots of exploration potential. I think Amir is going to make this into a very significant gold-producing company, or at least a company that builds up a gold asset that will be sold off. And right now, with this market for gold shares being so weak, I think it's a time to people should really be taking a really good look at this company.
Jay, as a top resource analyst and newsletter editor, you speak at a lot of conferences, and I wanted to get your feedback on what you're hearing from people as far as, are the gold investors getting tapped out here? They went from 1,900 to 1,300 over the last 2 years. I mean, are you starting to hear about people buying Facebook shares and selling their gold?
Yeah, I think there's probably most of the people that are going to do that have done that. I think there's a hard core of believers in gold that understand what I'm talking about, that are long-term holders of gold, and they're taking advantage of these lower prices to add to their positions. Certainly, if you go to Asia and other countries around the world that aren't so conned by their governments into believing that fiat currency is a wonderful thing, they're buying gold. They're taking advantage of this. But I think at the margins, we've certainly seen this. The people that drove the gold price up to 1,900 plus, were not necessarily the hardcore gold bugs. They were the people that have come in at later stages. I can tell you that when I first started my radio show in March of 2009, that was pretty much at the bottom of the Lehman Brothers debacle, and there was a lot of willingness, a lot more then, from people who had never really considered gold to become interested in investing in gold and thinking about doing that because they were really honestly starting to see what a lot of us were talking about for many years, and that is that the system is sick and that the policymakers didn't have all the answers. Well, now we've had a few years of recovery, at least in the stock market. I would argue that the economy is as sick as ever. It hasn't really bounced back much at all. If you really use real inflation numbers, the GDP is flat at best. But nonetheless, the people that might be buying stocks, gold stocks, and the people that have more money, are doing quite well. As you say in Facebook and other stocks now, they're doing quite well. The Dow and the other stocks have hit new highs recently. So there is sort of I think the con artists are back in town. They've restored confidence in the system. So I think that's why gold. One of the reasons gold has taken such a hit right now, in part, is because it seems like to people who want to drink the establishment's Kool-Aid that things are looking pretty good. As long as the policymakers can convince us that they have control of the system, everything is going to be fine, keep people believing in the dollar or other fiat currencies, then they've got you where they want you. And what I'm saying to my subscribers is that you can't trust them because you have to understand that the dollar is a system, and more dollars are being created, so the value of each dollar is declining. It's very easy with keystrokes of a computer to increase the money supply, the supply of dollars. It's much more difficult to mine gold, which is the market's answer, the market's choice for free money, for honest money, for real intrinsic money, asset-based money, not liability money like the fiat money that we use. So what people need to do is to get outside of the system. For people of more average means, develop a set of life-sustaining skills so that when the system breaks down, and unfortunately, I'm absolutely sure the system will break down eventually, and I'm afraid sooner rather than later, people want to have skills that they can trade to barter, essentially, their services for other things that are necessary. So those are some of the ideas. I think that people need to be aware, first of all, that the system itself is sick. It's a fiat money system. It's a controlled system by government. It's not a free market. We do not have capitalism anymore. We have something more akin to fascism or statism of one stripe or another. And so people really have to understand that. And then, as much as possible, opt out of the system.
I was going to ask you if you thought the gold correction is over, because I saw in your newsletter in 2006 we had one that lasted 71 weeks. In 2008 we had 77 weeks. And this one, we're on our 112th week, and we're really far from making a new high.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. And I think that the chances are probably 90% that we've seen the lows. I wouldn't rule out, though, if you look at the charts, it would seem as though we could go down to, a little above 1,000 potentially. And if we did, it would be akin in percentage losses to what was experienced in the last great gold bull market in the 70s, when we went from about 200 to 100 and then up to 850. I think I don't think we're going to go down there, but if we do, that would be another great buying opportunity. No doubt it would shake even a lot of good solid gold bugs out, scare them out. But if I could, I would like to see an end of the bull market in gold. Honestly, I really would. I would like to see no reason to own gold. Then we could get on to doing things that are really useful for other human beings instead of taking capital and digging holes in the ground and taking gold out and putting it in a vault. We could be doing things that might actually create wealth and do things that are really good for people. But the markets are demanding, and people like me who understand how sick the fiat currency system is, the global economy is, as a result of this manipulation of markets for so many decades, realize that we can't run away from gold now. We have to own it because it is going to be the store of wealth. I don't know, but I think we're close to the end. And I've had Dr. Robert McHugh. He's an avid Elliott Wave analyst who was on my radio show. Believes we could be 6 months yet or so away from from the next leg up. But he believes the next leg up will be the fifth wave in an Elliott Wave bull market here for gold, that we will see that will be by far the biggest move upwards in gold, that we will take out the old highs by a large margin. Other people like Ian McLeod, who I've had on my show, said I wouldn't want to wait around for 6 months. He's looking at the fundamentals of the gold market. He's looking at the shortage of gold bullion to cover the contracts that are out there in the futures markets, and he's not at all convinced that we won't see something, much more significant taking place before 6 months. So I don't know what the timing is on this thing. All I know is that the global monetary system is as sick as ever. I know that in the United States, our financial system, our government is going bankrupt. I know that that there's no way in God's little green earth that we're going to have a solvent fiscal situation anytime probably in my lifetime. And so I can only see a bull market in gold, and when it's ready, I think the main point I'd like to make is that people shouldn't sit around and wait for the market to start to move, because it could go. We could see a turn in the gold market like in a New York minute, to put it one way, because I think another good point that Alistair McLeod made on my show is very worthwhile considering. These fiat currencies, which run the opposite way of gold, like the dollar being the main world's reserve currency, they are a total con game. There's nothing behind them anymore. As Alistair pointed out, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the amount of money that's created. If you have 50 trillion or $100 trillion of money, if none of those units of currency are worth anything, it doesn't really matter. The point is, the con job, when it's up, the dollar could collapse very, very quickly. He points out that without any increase in the corona in Iceland, that overnight it lost 50% of its value. So once people lose confidence, and then it's going to be too late. So people need to be lining up, buying, opting out of this system now before everybody else figures out that the system is sick and it's going down.
Jay Taylor of Jay Taylor Media, thank you so much for your time, sir. If someone would like to reach out to you personally, is Jay Taylor Media the best place for them to go?
Yeah, jtaylormedia.com is the best place to go, and miningstocks.com is also another. Mining Stocks really deals with my newsletter more, and Jay Taylor Media is a portal for the newsletter, my colleague Chen Lin's newsletter, as well as my radio show, Turning Hard Times into Good Times.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time. You have a good day.
You're welcome. Thank you.